Should we redo the Star Trek chant? Star Trek. No.
Trek. No. the moment has passed.
Oh, well, it happened off air. That's okay. Welcome back to We Were Gamers Subpod Subspace Transmissions. That's so... Sometimes, some mornings, it's very easy. Let's start it over. Welcome to... We Were Gamers.
You are receiving the subspace transmission from us right now. This podcast that you are hearing.
Mm-hmm. Flying into your ears like a Spore Hub drive.
Oh my God.
We've been watching some Star Trek Discovery. If you haven't watched it and you care about spoilers, you should watch along with us. We're not going very fast. It's like a couple episodes a month.
Yeah. I think we're going to do 3 this particular episode.
Okay.
Or this particular podcast.
Yeah.
So 3 episodes. That's 4 through 6 we'll be covering here.
4 through 6. So the previous 2 pods, hopefully. If you somehow managed to tune into this one, go back. The first one is episode Subspace Transmission 8. And we did the first episode and like a bunch of notes on the series and what it looks like. And then in episode 9 was 1 and 2, or 2 and 3, sorry.
Yeah, 2 and 3.
And now we wanted to pick it up a little bit because this show kind of is very much more narrative than maybe the previous versions of the show. Even something like Voyager, which kind of it mattered that they were traveling through the Delta Quadrant and stuff was happening to the ship that was permanent. Even that was episodic in a way, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely, you could miss a couple of weeks of Voyager and still probably be all right. I feel like if you skipped an episode of this, you would just be very confused about what's going on.
Absolutely, especially with after episode 3, where they have the tardigrade on board, things sort of take a turn for extremely narrative. Whereas I thought maybe they were headed towards episodic there when they were like, okay, well, we got everything figured out, and I was like, okay, cool, so we're gonna like enter normal Trek here.
Episode 4, even in specific, is very much like they could have put this anywhere in the timeline almost.
Mm-hmm.
Except that then the way it resolves sort of leaves you with no choice but to do all this other stuff that they then do in 5 and 6.
Right. All right, so let's get into it. Episode 4 starts with the best title I may have seen ever in a show. The Butcher's Knife cares not for the lamb's cry.
What a name.
Which maybe is a better title for later in these 3 episodes.
I was going to say that I think the next episode has my favorite title so far.
Oh, okay. I didn't write that one down, so you're going to have to remind us when we get there. We kind of do these in order of each episode, and at the end of each episode, we talk about it a little bit. And then I think what we'll do is we'll motor through these real quick, and then we'll give some big updates to our opinions on the show at the end, probably, because there are some updates.
Yes, there are.
All right, let's slam through it. Looks like she gets a uniform, but she's got no insignia. I like that. They kind of just were like, she being Michael Burnham, gets a uniform. She's part of the crew, but she's not enlisted. She's just there. No insignia.
They had to give her the uniform because the uniforms look cool. And they didn't want her walking around in the orange jumpsuit all the time.
Yeah.
But they couldn't give her a badge because, she's
like
a
I
criminal.
said, there's some updates to my opinions on the show, and one of them is the uniforms.
Yeah.
I started to get a longer look at them, and some of the parts make no sense. We could just do that. No, I put my notes
Nah.
down, so.
We'll do it later. But I just want to say, the episode moves along. She's sort of tasked with, Michael Burnham is tasked with figuring out what's up with, they don't call it the tardigrade at this point, but...
No. Interestingly, she goes to the bridge. Saru is on her way there, and we find out that the things from the last episode are called threat ganglia, which are going to be an important part of the show for some reason, and I don't like that. That is yucky. Just because I don't like the look of it.
I think it's extremely silly looking just in general.
Yeah.
Also, like, no species is going to name part of their own anatomy threat ganglia.
Yeah.
Ganglia are things that exist on cells and in anatomy. Okay, they could name it that.
Sure.
But they're not going to say like, oh, this is our threat ganglia.
Ooh.
Like, no, dude. I know you want to portray Saru as like this constantly, cowardly guy. But no. So dumb.
The bridge is running a red alert simulation because they want to be able to jump with the spore drive, which we finally get the name of the spore drive here.
They actually call it that, right?
Yeah, the displacement activated spore drive spore hub drive. Spore drive for short.
What? Why do you have to be displacement activated?
I don't know.
Okay.
Does that mean that like only certain size ships can do it? Is that why the hull spins?
Yeah, I don't know. They talk about the hull spinning to like counter some kind of force or whatever that's happening. I thought that was actually pretty cool, like a interesting mechanical solution to like, oh, we've created this like somehow rotational energy and spinning this counteracts it so that we don't feel like shit inside. And that's like the only reason you would do that kind of stuff in engineering, right? It's like, oh, we spin the space stations in real space so that people inside pretend to have gravity. This is like a similar idea or something. I don't know.
All right, so then we get into the real part.
It looks cool. That's all I'm really into.
We get into the real meat of the episode here. Lorca drags Burnham into his little shop of horrors.
Which is like interesting. I kind of thought going into this that little shop of horrors was going to be like his secret lair or whatever.
Yeah.
But nope, no, just kidding.
No, instead it's like, I've always been waiting for you, xenoanthropologist. Here, enjoy your new lab.
Yeah. What? Okay.
I noticed something here that I really like that I've never seen in Star Trek before, though. When they're walking to the lab, the lights aren't on in the hallway until they walk through the hallway. Mm-hmm. And on our previous discussions of things being kind of like submarine-like in a lot of senses on a lot of these ships, that would make a lot of sense, not using power somewhere it's not needed.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the light, obviously the ship has, dilithium, whatever, blah, 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 and I'm sure they can power a light bulb for as long as they want. But also, at some point, someone has to go replace that light bulb.
Sure, okay. Well,
leave
LEDs
it off,
last for 20 years or whatever. So
yeah, leave it off.
Leave it off. It's fine.
It makes sense.
I like that in the last episode, he was like, help me build a spore drive. Help me save the Federation. And in this one, he's just like, jump in with both feet. Weaponize this. Build me weapons, actually.
Yeah.
This being the tardigrade, I guess, which...
Yeah, they're calling it the Ripper here still, I think. But yeah, it's... the only note I wrote for this entire part is, wow, Lorca is clearly evil.
I didn't think so.
He's acting super shifty through these whole series of episodes.
Okay, that later, episode 6 is kind of, maybe you're right, a little bit.
At this point, though, I basically just got from him, he's like, hey, I don't care what this thing is. It clearly messed up some Klingons real good. I want it to mess up Klingons for me. Let's do war crimes. Like, that's kind of all I got. I was like, whoa, my dude, you're just talking about directly going into developing, like, murder robots. Let's, like, slow down.
Yeah, I thought, I got a different vibe. I think Jason Isaacs is a great actor. Like,
yeah,
very clearly one of the most polished on the show in terms of his ability to act, slight emotions, very slight emotions. And in this one, I got I got out of him that he's frustrated a lot with a lot of things, right? Like the spore drive is not working right. The other ship blew up. His bridge crew can't handle his simulations that he's trying to run. And they told him to win this war and he's got nothing right now. And so that to me read that way at this moment. So I kind of bought in to like, all right, Lorca, I think you're going to end up being a little bit over the top and we're going to have that moment where you lose it and you're going way too far because clearly this is setting that sort of thing up. But I get where you're coming from. So I'm not all the way to where we end up in episode 6, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just like this whole section I really had like almost no notes, and then it was just like, man, Lorca is evil.
The Klingons are dead in the water. They ate Philippa.
Yeah, man, wow. They just kind of toss that out there as like you sure we're okay eating the human smooth brain? It's like, wait, what? Huh?
Yeah.
Klingons eat people? When did that happen?
When did they become... Yeah, I did not understand that one. That was new, right? I don't remember Klingons eating people.
No, I definitely don't remember them eating people. They do then try to make it like, oh, everyone on this ship is starving or whatever.
Sure, but
look, are you going to eat a space alien? I don't think I would.
I guess they cooked it. But they won't go steal the part they need from the Shenzhou to fix the ship. And that's it. That's a little aside from the Klingons there. We head back to the security commander whose name I never got. She names it the Ripper.
Yep. And then here's what I wrote for this part. Wow, this security lady is dumb as hell.
She is very dumb, but she comes up with one of the great lines of this episode. Burnham says, the tardigrade can only be what it is, not what you want it to be. And she's trying to point out, like, I don't think this thing is like a weapon. I think it's just a giant like cow with really meat cleavery hands. And she says, Lorca doesn't care what you are, only what you can do. And then she adds, as a separate sentence, for him.
Yeah. It was like very clearly her being like, look, listen, lady, I've been around a long time. Yeah. You're new here. I'm going to show you what's up. Lorca wants you to turn this into a weapon. I recommend you figure out how to turn it into a weapon.
Right.
He says jump. You should say how high.
He says jump. You should say like with how many other people, basically, right? She's like dragging everyone else along. We find out that Corvan 2, where the Federation gets 40% of their dilithium, which is new to me. I've never remembered that being a thing. Maybe in the later series, they've diversified their dilithium storage because of this problem.
Like their dilithium portfolio has been enhanced later in the series or something, because wow.
So no one apparently can get there somehow. You'd think that would be a very protected piece of space.
Yeah, for such an important strategic asset, they have no spaceships there?
They said they got through the blockade with the birds of prey or something.
I would like to point out, space blockades don't work.
You're going to have like Ender's Game amount of ships.
Yeah, you can't do that, man. Space, you can go anywhere. There's a lot of it. It's very difficult to blockade space because you have to make a sphere around the sphere you want to protect. It's like 80 times more ships than you need to protect. Anyway, space blockades are dumb. Well, sorry, that's all I got.
Space blockades are dumb. So is
and they don't work, apparently. So
the Federation needs like some help setting their ships in the right places. And then we jump back to the Klingons. I don't really have any notes about jumping back to the Klingons as they try to like figure their stuff out. Other than that, I'm not digging something about the Klingon accent.
Yeah. This guy is like,
he's kind of mopey.
Yeah, he's kind of mopey. It's like, oh, Takuvma is dead. Why do you guys not want to honor Takuvma? And we'll survive. We're Klingons.
But there's some sort of digital affectation they've put over their voices to make them sound muffly or something. And I don't know.
Or like they're trying to speak it through the prosthetics or something. It's very confusing.
It's weird. I'm starting to miss my TNG Klingons.
I know. I want someone to like yell about Stovokor and like.
So good.
Get in a fight.
Right? Exactly. I don't think they ate people.
No. As far as I can tell, and never before have we talked about Klingons eating people.
All right, so Black Alert is for jumping the spore drive. I wish that there was more uses for Black Alert than that, because Black Alert is awesome.
The idea of Black Alert is cool.
I'm in it.
It's just the whole thing where they're just like Black Alert, and you're like, okay,
all right.
Couldn't they just say like engage the spore drive? They have to have a Black Alert for that.
Well, so here's my question about Black Alert. They're going to be jumping into a war zone. Shouldn't they be at Red Alert?
Yeah, man, certainly seems reasonable.
They're gonna jump
and
in.
Like they definitely, and it's not like they replace Red Alert with Black Alert, because later
they jump
you
in
see
and they're Red Alert. Yeah,
Red Alert. You're like, oh, okay. Well, like, is it just like DEFCON levels where you promote up and then you can go down one at a time or something?
Personally, I think if my body could end up in a twisted mess just from doing it, I would rather that be Red Alert and we can go down to Black Alert for battle.
Yeah, man.
Lorca's catchphrase is "go," which I think is great considering his character.
Yeah, he's very no nonsense here.
Go. They don't make it though.
Nope.
He says collision is not an option as they try to fall into a star, which I thought was beautiful.
It was very pretty. The like CG effects and stuff outside the ship looked cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that this show spent a lot of time when you can see the ships, making them very pretty. I have a comment about the ships in a minute, but they can't seem to, let's see what, get the spore drive working right. So he plays, what does he do? He plays the recording?
No, not quite yet, right? They escape from the star, right, by like getting the other normal engines back online, and they kind of pull away. And then they're trying to figure out how to get the spore drive to do better. And I think he goes down there and is yelling at the engineer. I
think they're in the sick bay where we finally meet Dr. Culber for the first real amount of time, who's fixing Stamens' face.
Oh, right, because in the jump, like, Stamens, like, face plants his, like, the motion or whatever makes him hit his face on the thing, so he's in there, right?
Yeah. I didn't get any inkling of stuff that comes later here. They did a good job.
Yeah.
So Agreed. He plays those recordings, which kind of sets the crew on edge. Recordings of the colony getting attacked. And then I'm sure you have comments about what the security chief does next.
Wow, this lady is dumb. I wrote again.
Well,
was dumb. And her solution to was dumb. Her solution to figuring out what the tardigrade does or can do or whatever is let's shoot it.
Which
let's
works
let it go
so well.
After we saw what it did to everyone before. I have one gun. It killed 15 people on that other ship.
And a knife.
And a knife. And I'm going to anesthetize it or whatever. There are no words for how stupid this whole plan is. I just don't even have any idea what they were doing. It was clearly like they needed to write this character out really fast for some reason. They couldn't have had her die last episode when it would have made more sense.
Well, I like that Lorca doesn't really blame Burnham for the death.
No, I think like that. Like by the end of this episode, actually, I think I was starting to come around on Lorca.
Yeah.
And then it went out the window by the time we got to episode 6.
I don't know that it's out the window after episode 6. Okay. So they Klingons steal the dilithium processor from the Shenzhou. And then Volk again seems drama and sad, and there's drama
because he's using human technology.
Oh no! Burnham figures out that the tardigrade eats spores. I want to know how the spores live in space.
I have a lot of questions about the tardigrade in space and how the spores work and how they talk about the fungal
network
spores going throughout the sub-magic layer of transportation network or whatever. None of it makes any damn sense at all.
Right. No. Volk is betrayed.
The guy who he thought was coming to pledge fealty to him turns out actually was there to take all his people and his technology and then leave him.
General Cole.
Yeah.
Who wisely said, I should go back and help the one ship in existence that we know has cloaking technology.
How did no one else think of this?
It makes me really say, like, well, you pretty much should back Cole because he's the only guy that was like, I should go steal that ship that can cloak while the other 23 houses are running around doing what? Who knows?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Not a lot of strong thinkers in the Klingon side in this series of episodes.
I'm concerned that the Klingons might be a little makeup wise, and with them only ever speaking Klingon unless they're talking to the Federation, maybe they've made them a little too alien for me. Because the Klingons before, they humanized them very well across multiple platforms. And one of those platforms was makeup. And another one was letting you into their society much easier by having them speak English when they're alone.
Yeah.
And that kind of, that gave you the whole like, yeah, man, Stovacor, I'm in for that. Versus this one where they say Stovacor and it's like, that they're in the middle of trying to get all these Klingon words out of their mouths. So I don't.
There definitely was a sense by the time you'd gone through a lot of TNG and DS9 that you were like, these guys are kind of like cool spacefaring warrior Viking human guys with weird foreheads, right? Like they didn't feel that alien,
right?
But at this point, you're kind of like, these are just some straight up alien dudes. We don't really get a lot of you don't get a sense of their humanity and stuff. Maybe until a little later. It's just really, really weird. I agree. It's a strange decision to do it this way.
We finally get a working spore drive shot, which is pretty cool.
Yay.
Bam.
Yeah, the ship freaks out too. It inverts and rolls on its axis in a way that seems not possible.
It was pretty cool because they plugged the tardigrade into it.
Yeah, so Burnham connects the dots that whatever this equipment they salvaged from the Glen was a way to essentially harness this animal to do this.
Turn it into a supercomputer navigation
somehow.
System thing. I wish that we had gotten a better shot of the birds of prey here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of busy fighting happening, and most of it is just explosions, and I really couldn't get a good look at the birds of prey. I don't know if you have looked them up since then.
No, they don't. I just saw them streak through the shot a couple times, and they looked like vaguely similar to the ones I remember, but I didn't freeze frame and look that up.
They look very similar in shape, but they look, again, kind of like those 2009 birds of prey with the forward swept just wings, and the one little engine on the back. It's kind of, I don't know what to think about them. Hopefully we'll get some better shots of them later, because it's kind of an important ship.
And they definitely, the Federation mentions them being around a lot. Mm-hmm. So I want to hope that we will see them more as the show goes on.
All right, Giorgio twists the knife from beyond the grave and leaves Burnham family heirloom and says, "Oh, I imagine you have your own ship," and whatever in her little message.
My note about this part is that they clearly don't have any courts in the future, because how would Philippa Giorgio's family allow their family heirloom from ancient Earth to go to the traitor who killed her?
Maybe she doesn't have any family left.
I suppose that must be the only reading then.
I kind of read that as she took on captainhood in Starfleet and never had a family, and she was it,
Okay. I like that better than what I was thinking. I was like, her kids are like, yeah, let's give this to the lady who killed our mom. I was like, whoa, what? Yeah. But actually, your reading makes way more sense.
It's weird to me. At the end of this episode, I was left with the feeling that there's so much crew that we've seen on this ship over and over again that I don't know any of their names.
Of the bridge officers, besides Saru and Lorca, I could not name a single person on the bridge of that ship.
And we're supposed to be able to name at least the woman that has the side thing on her head. I don't know. She's from another ship or something that Burnham said her name one time and never said it again. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre, man. They've clearly done tried to do the ensemble cast thing that they kind of had going in the Next Generation and DS9 and the other Star Trek shows. But they've done a really terrible job of introducing you to the names of a lot of the cast. Yeah. Or it feels like it anyway.
Yeah. I see their faces a lot. I just don't. Who are they? I don't know any of their names. I know Dr. Culber maybe.
Right. I didn't know his name at this point in this show.
I didn't know his name
get him
either,
until
right?
like episode 6 or 5 or whichever the next one is.
Yeah. Any thoughts on episode 4, or we shoot to episode 5 here?
I kind of gave my thoughts here. I think, like I said up front, it felt almost, except for the part where like this is where they figure out the spore drive, it kind of felt like at the end of this episode, they could go off and have adventures.
Yes.
Right? Like they didn't need to continue the narrative beyond this, except that they did.
They almost tricked me into thinking that at the beginning of episode 5 here, because, well, we just get into it. Lorca, well...
Yeah.
I mean, so Burnham has a bad dream. She's sort of mentally connected to the tardigrade. But then we get to the meat of it. Lorca is in a meeting with a bunch of admirals. And we find out that the Discovery has been using the spore drive, jumping around all over the place.
Yeah, getting stuff done.
Getting war on.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And that could have been part of their, like, okay, well, that's what we're doing. If they didn't want to do a lot of the other things they want to do, it sounds like, with the whole, like, well, we can't keep using the spore drive because it's going to kill the animal. And
yeah. So, like, kind of the at the jump off here in episode 5, I sort of thought this is where we would be by the end of this season.
Right. Yeah.
And like they completely ran around what I thought was going to happen here.
Right. Yeah.
There's the Starfleet's like, you can't be doing this. You're going off on your own, and getting things, he's like, I have to win the war my way and the whole thing. And they're like, this asset is too important and all this stuff. And, it's like, well, oh, okay. So like, they're just not going to show the adventures of the ship at all. The adventures are something else.
Yeah,
we're gonna have serious meeting time and like.
Yeah, it took to episode 3 to get our ship. Come on.
Yeah, give me some fun adventures before you go into like serious Federation meeting time mode.
Yeah, so it is a serious meeting. They're making more spore drive ships. I noticed some more stuff about the uniforms here for later.
Yeah. No, you could bring it up real quick if you got like a
shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that was what you were going to say.
Shoulder pads.
Uh-huh.
Here we go.
Yep. All right, so moving on.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Lorca shoots a bunch of stuff in his eyes. Dear God.
So I didn't know what this was at the time.
Oh, okay.
And like it didn't make... I didn't realize what it was. I thought he was doing drugs.
Oh, okay. No, because she walks in, Admiral Cornwell walks in and says, get your eyes fixed.
Right. So then I was like, what? Like I put it together by the time the events that unfold next happened, but I was like, I didn't get, it's like he's shooting up in the conference room. Like someone's going to see you, dude. Like, do your like illegal space drugs in your eyes somewhere else, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I've been watching too much anime or something.
Maybe. Lorca says out loud the thing that every Starfleet captain keeps inside. He says, my ship, my way.
I think you clearly pick up here on this scene that Lorca and the Admiral, whose name I have forgotten.
Cornwall.
Cornwall, thank you. That Lorca and Cornwall have like a history.
Definitely. They came up together or something.
Yeah. And she's like, hey, I'm speaking to you as a friend. Let's like rein it in. We can get this done. It's too important for us and too important for you to be acting like this. And then he's like, my ship, my way. You don't like it. Too bad.
Yeah. The Admiral said I could.
Right.
I like that she doesn't leave Burnham off the list of like things like Starfleet's not just going to forget,
Yes. Thank God. I was very worried they were going to do that and just be like, oh, you brought on Burnham. Okay, cool, whatever. And she's like, yo, this is a dumb idea. You're sabotaging yourself. Like, here, you're making other people into your enemy inside Starfleet. Like, don't do this.
Right. You've taken the only mutineer in the history of 100 and whatever years of Starfleet, and you're using them. And it's like, okay, cool. So this is going to be a thing. I like that.
Yes. Hey, this is a bad look, my dude. Consider.
All right. So the D7 shows up. Lorca's in a shuttle?
Yeah, unclear why the shuttle was either A, not at warp, or like, did it show up right next to the space base they were on?
Yeah, where are they? How did the D7 get to them unnoticed? Nobody's long-range sensors picked it up?
That's a lot of questions I have.
Yeah, that one's a big question mark for me of like, I don't understand how this happened. But he gets abducted. Lorca gets abducted because the Klingons know that Lorca is on the shuttle somehow.
Yep, a lot of questions here.
Yeah.
This whole thing, very strange.
They know Lorca's on the shuttle somehow. They know Lorca's the captain of the Discovery. They know the Discovery is an important ship.
They kind of mentioned that in the meeting, though. They're like, oh, the Klingons are kind of picking up on what you're doing. You're sort of figuring out Discovery is the ship. We need you to not, be so out there all the time.
Right.
And so, like, I could understand them knowing who Lorca is.
Okay.
I don't know how they know he's on that shuttle. I don't know where this shuttle is in relation to anything else, or how they find that shuttle.
Yeah.
And how that shuttle is out by itself, not in warp, not in between, defenses or whatever.
One would hope that in the future we get actually there's a Klingon spy or something, and maybe there is, because in this episode we find out about one. So
yeah. So I thought it was. Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, it's fine. If you have more on the D7.
No.
Okay.
It's like it was cool to see it show up, and then
the next page of notes is just, oh no, it just goes on forever. As we get Captain Saru.
Oh, yeah, not great. Yeah. Actually, a lot of the rest of my notes from this part are about Lorca's side of this story. So
I love Lorca's side of the story, but we'll get to Lorca's in just a second, because I think there's some great moments here with Saru that I don't want to gloss over. No One Listens to Burnham Part 2 occurs.
It seems to be the theme of this story, where like Burnham has a ethical or justifiable concern. Everyone goes, "No, mutineer, I won't listen to you." And then her concern turns out to be right.
Right, yeah. So we get Saru not listening to Burnham again. And then Saru, concerned that he can't manage Burnham's non-faith in him or something.
She hasn't done anything.
I don't understand. She's not even enlisted, so it doesn't matter what she says to him. Gives Saru maybe my favorite moment in the show so far, where he says, "Computer, list the most decorated captains in Starfleet history."
God.
Oh my God.
This scene was excruciating.
I jumped up. I said, yeah.
I watched this and I'm like, he's having a pity session on my screen. I don't need this.
On his own, to the computer of the ship. Okay.
List the qualities in a good captain and tell me that I'm good, please. I'm so sad.
I wrote them down. Bravery, compassion, tactical brilliance, self-sacrifice, and intelligence. Those are the captain's. Those are the qualities of a captain. So Saru decides that he's going to...
Hold on. Before we go past this too far, did you look at the list of captains? I did.
So I took a picture of it. It was Robert April, which is the captain of the Enterprise currently. Previous to Pike. So Pike is already the captain of the Enterprise as of
Pike
Discovery.
is on that list also.
Yeah, which I thought was awesome, actually. So Robert April, Jonathan Archer, Matt Decker.
From Enterprise.
Yeah. Matt Decker, who
I don't know who that is,
was in.
He must just be from original series then, because the timeline would only make sense that like original series era people, would be on this list.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's mentioned in later shows, and he's on the original series, and he's the captain of the USS Constellation. I looked that part up, and the Constellation being the predecessor to the Enterprise,
right? And that is mentioned in the original series at some point, I think.
Right. So I believe he was killed in whatever episode of Star Trek he's in the original series.
Sounds right. And then it's Philippa Georgiou and Captain Pike.
Captain Pike. That's the part that I was like, awesome. So awesome that they like knew at this point they needed to like get Pike references going.
Yeah. But the rest of this scene was
oh my God, it's
excruciating, and I
sad.
wanted to fast forward.
Yeah.
It's like watching someone have like an emo breakdown, and you're just like, my dude, this is.
I don't think we can suspect.
You are defeating yourself here.
We cannot expect more from Saru. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Harry Mudd.
We cut back to this part, and you hear the titular line of this episode. Choose your pain.
Yes.
Which is the name of this episode, by the way. Yep. My notes for like meeting Harry Mudd and all these Lorca scenes is everyone here is just a bunch of space a-holes. It's like this Harry Mudd guy is a jerk. The Klingons on this prison ship are jerks. Yeah. Lorca is a jerk. Like no one is nice,
jerk, isn't he? How can that other dude, Tyler, when he meets Lorca, tell his rank? Can you tell?
No, and I had a good question. I wanted to know how he knew.
Yeah, he looks at him
because there's no like pips. He's no pips on his collar. His uniform isn't really different.
It's almost identical. Yeah.
So like maybe there's like a code to the stripes on the shoulders or something.
Yes,
I don't know.
See there. So I think I have a theory, and that comes back to the shoulder pad thing, and it's terrible if it's true. Yeah. So we figure out about past the pain. We jump back to Burnham in the candlestick in the library. No, Burnham's with Stamens and
and they're trying to
what's her name? Tilly,
yes.
They're trying to figure out how to use the tardigrade without using the tardigrade because they're killing the tardigrade.
Right, and you can see Burnham is I think later in this scene she like is gently feeding it, trying to nurse it back to health as it's clearly deteriorating.
And we get the Star Trek, the first F-bomb in Star Trek, maybe?
Is it? Yeah, probably, huh?
I don't think there would have been one before because everything else was on TV.
Yeah.
And then they say it again.
Yeah.
Saru loses his shit.
Later through parts of this episode, actually, a bunch of like non-Star Trek vernacular starts sneaking in.
Oh, you should point that out because I missed that.
Later, we'll get to it.
We find out, we go back to the Klingon ship, and we finally get a lot of Lorca backstory here because Harry Mudd apparently knows who he is.
Yeah, real weird. At this time, I guess I didn't realize that. I thought it was a fun guest character. I didn't think he was going to be a more continuing part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry Mudd, I was like, how does he know Lorca? How is he giving, it's like, oh, this is an interesting way to get the backstory. But how does this random dude know?
Yeah. Man, Lorca blew up his previous ship with his whole crew on it?
So Lorca's ship was ambushed by Klingons or something. I didn't get the idea of why this battle happened.
Okay.
But Lorca's ship loses or is disabled or something, and he escapes, but he then knows that the Klingons are going to capture everyone else on the ship, so he blows it up.
So that they won't be taken to Kronos and tortured and paraded around.
Because he knew that it was better for them all to die than to be tortured by the Klingons.
Yikes.
Yo, how did this guy become a captain after that?
Yeah, of a new ship that has the most ingenious weapon they've ever had on it.
I guess the implication here is that maybe that's not what Lorca told other people.
It sounds like it as we get to episode 6 later, that maybe people don't quite understand what happened there.
Yes, because when we get this, I'm like, what? This dude is a monster. Like, say whatever you want about, whether you think living in torture is great or not. It's probably really bad.
Yeah.
I don't think you, the captain, get to choose to kill everyone on your ship. If they want to make that choice for themselves to commit seppuku or whatever, like, go for it, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, man.
That's a tough one. I want more details on that one later.
That is a moral choice and not an easy one.
Saru starts to go a little overboard, but the tardigrade says no more and turns into a little ball.
Like drops a bunch of water on the ground.
Lorca escapes with Tyler from the ship.
On, sorry. We got to talk about the tardigrade for like another half second.
Oh, yeah.
They mentioned that it went into some kind of like stasis or whatever. They give it a name that I couldn't ever actually hear.
Bio something.
Fully what the name was. It's like suspended animation or something. They say that it reduced its water content in its body to like 1% of normal.
Uh-huh.
Which then later in this episode we can talk about again because there's some stuff that doesn't make sense still.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Lorca.
It might also be sentient, they said, which is
like, the doctor starts saying like, hey, I think this thing might be sentient. I can't be a part of this anymore. Y'all are like trying to kill it.
Right. Lorca escapes with Lieutenant Tyler. Disruptors.
We missed the part earlier where they're torturing, where the captain of this prison vessel or whatever is torturing Lorca, right?
Right.
With the bright lights, where I figured out what was going on with his eyes.
Yeah, he's very sensitive to light. Mm-hmm.
And I wrote down that in this case there are 4 lights.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, there were 4 there.
There were 4 lights?
Yep.
Good for them.
I wrote that down.
Nice job.
Yeah, and then you go through. Lorca learns that guy
Harry Mudd is a spy,
right? And that the other guy is like been doing things with the captain, maybe.
Yeah, definitely, not maybe.
Okay, like it's not clear like
him.
What kind of things they've been doing, but yeah, I mean it's implied that he's her side piece or whatever.
Adult things.
Yeah. And so Lorca and this other guy whose name I also still didn't have at this point, finally put the ruse to the Klingons of like, oh no, I'm down and injured. Let's do the prison escape thing where like you have exactly as many guards as we have people in this cell and none of you choose to use your guns.
Right. Those guns are, they upped the ante on disruptors a little bit, huh?
Wow, man.
They can bounce now.
And the people just like poof and they're gone. Yeah. It's not like you shoot someone and they get hurt unless you like very lightly graze them in a way that the makeup can handle. Otherwise, they just poof.
Well, the Klingon disruptor has always kind of been a poof if it hits you center mass. But yeah, I remember.
I just feel like I remember a lot more cases of people being shot and just having like bloody wounds on their side and kind of being like falling over.
It's all over the place on that one because sometimes phasers are bloody and I don't.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. And if more science here, like, hey, if these actually are like somehow light beams that hurt you, it would cauterize immediately because it's light,
sure,
and hot. Anyway, whatever. So they stage this escape, and the captain comes back to find her boyfriend or whatever, and he starts beating the crap out of her. Holy cow, dude. And she eventually realizes that she's a Klingon and he's just some dude.
Yeah, Lorca does not abandon Tyler, and
so like I was starting to come around on him here. It's like, oh, right, he's coming back to get his people. He's making up for the bad things he did in the past. I see.
I like him.
His thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's definitely like that moment where he in the ship. I think he says when they're escaping in this little raider or whatever they call them, he says, your eyes are messed up from that battle, huh? And he's like, yeah, man, you choose your own pain,
right.
So he's saying that,
and then he
helps.
mentions that his pain helps him remember, right?
So I guess maybe Lorca is a deeper well than he lets on, which is very Picard-like, right? Like in front of his crew.
Yeah, and like I really liked the characterization of him here. I just think that like there's a lot of he did some problematic stuff in the past.
Very clearly, something with his past is up, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we're not getting the whole story. I think it's written that to make us suspect that we're not getting the whole story.
And thus far, it proves that we can't necessarily trust all the stuff we've heard. So
yes, and that's cool. I think that's kind of cool. That unlike TNG, which is almost always face value, this might not be. So
yeah.
They set the tardigrade free.
I wrote here, she just wants to go to jail?
Because Stamens experiments on himself.
Yeah. So this is the part where I mentioned the like weird vernacular stuff starts creeping in.
Okay.
After he gets like spore high or whatever, that you hear the from the captain. He's like, okay, we've got Lorca back. Let's go. Saru, who has clearly decided he doesn't give a crap about the tardigrade, is just like, we're jumping now. Are we ready? And then you hear like from engineering, the drive will work.
Yeah. We
like
are
that.
able to jump is the quote. I wrote that down because I was like,
right.
I should remember this quote in case they don't immediately say who injected themselves with the stuff.
Yeah, I also was worried about them not saying that because obviously they showed Chekhov's injector earlier in the thing, right?
Right.
It's like, something's going to happen with this thing. And so, I figured, they had kind of hinted that maybe Michael was going to do it earlier because you see Michael having that freak out vision or whatever at some point earlier.
Yeah, they did hint that she would do it, right?
Yeah. And she's the one who's been protecting the tardigrade, kind of, so it would have made sense. But no, it was the chief engineer who got high on spores or whatever, and
it makes sense because he's trying to, she presents it earlier as like protecting his invention.
Totally.
So,
and the jump works somehow. None of that is explained.
Saru turns around and says, "Oh, actually, I do care about the tardigrade, and also I am really upset at you because I didn't get to be a first officer under Giorgio to Burnham." So Burnham gives him the telescope.
Which, okay, fine.
Sure. I'm good with that.
Yeah. And now you get the, as they rush into the engineering to check on the guy whose vital signs are not stable or something. And he like wakes up and has like this like really glassy eyed look and is like, I saw the spores, man.
Well,
and he just,
that's just the beginning there. Because then at the very end, we find out that he and Dr. Culber are an item. Which you kind of picked up maybe during this episode when they were arguing about the tardigrade, and he says at the end, "Oh, you would have left me if I kept experimenting on it." Yeah, like okay, I kind of picked up on that a little bit. What 555? Because I typed it too fast. The mirror. Yeah.
So they show that, right? And it's clearly foreshadowing
something's up with Stamens. He's looking at himself in the mirror. He leaves the room and he's still in the mirror.
And then the mirror leaves the room. And it feels like it's almost hinting at like he's like some kind of a space vampire or like a weird, like there's a weird alternate reality being created here or something. And
that's what I was wondering. Is the spore drive tapping into the mirror universe, and this is kind of like a foreshadowing or like a hint that they're like, actually the spore drive isn't moving you around, it's like moving you through realities.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions here. At the end, it's a cool, like, ooh, cool, look at this stinger. But they don't do much with it in episode 6, at least. Did you have any other comments about the end of 5 here?
No, I think I'm good on 5.
Yeah. I think that was kind of my thing, too. It's Burnham just wants to go to jail, though. She releases the thing that's known as strategic asset.
Well, Captain Saru made the call because he was still acting captain, so that's not her fault.
I know. I think also probably Saru didn't mean for her to release it.
No, he definitely did. He said, if that thing's sentient, then we need to do the thing that's right by it, and I will stand by the decision to do the thing that is right by a sentient species as captain, because Lorca still can't be in command. So basically he's saying, like, hurry up and get rid of the tardigrade before Lorca takes over again.
Okay.
That's how I read that scene.
I like that reading better than the reading I had at the time, which was like, hey, you need to fix this thing that's sick and, do whatever it takes to make it better because we need it. And then Burnham being like, well, the right thing to do is release it, and then doing it. And it just makes her look like, I want to go to jail again.
Okay. I could see how you could do it both ways.
I like your reading better, so I'm going to choose to believe that's what was intended.
All right.
Episode 6,
Space Magic.
I wrote at the beginning, we get more Sarek. Woohoo!
I don't know about woohoo, but
well, at the beginning, I didn't know where they were going with the episode.
Okay. Good point. At the beginning, I was like, "Oh, interesting, Sarek."
I just saw like the first scene had Sarek in it. I was like, "Oh, sweet, we get more Sarek."
I thought that those disco shirts were only like a merchandise thing when I saw them, people wearing them before, and now that I've seen them running around in them, I want one.
No, they're terrible.
Oh.
I also wrote that both of them have terrible running form and are going to be extremely injured in about another minute of running.
It's like neither one of them had ever run before. Burnham looked like she was running in slow motion.
Yeah. That's not how you run, man. They're like jumping while running. It was very confusing.
I think that, you know how everyone goes through like firearms training and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
They should just do like an exercise course with everybody also.
Yeah, giant Star Trek yoga. Why not?
Something. But
they got that giant cargo bay. They're not using it.
They also apparently have holodecks.
Oh, yeah. So then I wrote like, oh, so this guy that Lorca rescues is now going to become a main character, obviously.
Yep, of course. He offers him his chief of security job.
Which I guess was conveniently free after the last episode. I guess that's 2 episodes ago, but still.
Well. Yeah, hey, holodeck seems anachronistic. Am I wrong?
Yeah, and you know, the way they kind of make it seem they don't move around a ton.
They definitely have the like mirrors and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It seems like very like I don't know that they should have had it here.
Prior to the late 24th century, they were not equipped with holodecks. That's what this says on Memory Alpha, right?
I haven't looked. But
I guess
they didn't have them in the original series. They didn't have them in Enterprise, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And they do show up in TNG, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, somewhere between those two, they have to come in. But this is hewing pretty close to the timelines for the original series, so
I don't know why. They say the Crossfield class vessels were equipped with holographic technology, but not holodecks. So they don't count as a holodeck, I guess.
Even though it's really exactly
it's totally a holodeck. But I don't know.
Maybe it's a battle simulator only.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Fine. The Vulcan on Sarek's mission shoots himself with blow-up juice and glows.
Yeah, I wrote, "Oh boy, we get Vulcan extremists in this show."
Yep, which is not an unknown thing. They were a lot of them in Enterprise.
Yeah, I was going to say they've definitely talked about them before in Enterprise and other shows. So it's not like this is the first time we've heard of this.
Yep.
But I was like, "Oh, this thing again."
Yeah.
I never really liked it much. Well, the Vulcans were kind of like bad guys in Enterprise in a lot of the case.
They were definitely wet blankets.
Yeah, and here this guy just sort of seemed like, okay, you get Sarek is off to do some stuff that he's not all the way on the level with this dude, like right off the bat, right?
Right.
Because he's like, let me do the diplomacy. You just sit back there and drive.
What's the mission? The mission is for you to be quiet.
Yeah, exactly. The logic here is for you to shut up. But yeah, and then it's like, okay. So they have to have a reason to put Sarek in danger to make the rest of this episode go. I guess this is the way you do it. It sucks. I would rather just have them be attacked by Klingons or something.
Yeah, or just, yeah. Ugh. And then we have to go through the psychic Katra again with Sarek and
Space
Burnham
magic
being psychically connected because they share the same life force. But we do get an interesting addition or clarification on Michael Burnham's history, which is something I was confused about. In the first or second episode, you see the mind meld with Burnham, and she's on the ground, and we thought that was when Sarek rescued her
from the colony.
The colony, and it turns out it was not. It was Vulcan extremists that blew her up.
Yeah. So that actually made me way happier with Michael's backstory, figuring that out.
Yes.
Because at the time I was like, why was Sarek on this random human colony rescuing random kids? How does all this fit together? Where about Michael's parents? What about a whole lot of things? But then finding this part out makes way more sense because they were like, it's not like the terrorists were there to blow up the school because they didn't like the school.
Right.
They were there to blow up specifically her because she was a human
at the school. Yeah.
Yeah. And we kind of get my next note here is like some of this stuff is way more fun than having just normal flashbacks.
I agree.
It was like a fun way to tell us some of these stories, even though we only get pieces of them, throughout the episode here.
While it was it puts me very out of sorts to have this new Vulcan across space mind connection thing that is like, I don't understand how that could ever possibly work, especially considering it's not in any of the later shows and like, it doesn't seem very feasible, but man, you finally get some interesting stuff out of Sarek and the Vulcans. Not that there wasn't...
And that was the thing that I was happy about with it, but like the space magic part of it was like, okay, really, let's just... You want to tell some cool stories, we have to get inside the Vulcans' heads to do it. Okay, this is a way to do it, but man...
Speaking of getting inside of heads, something is in Stamens' head.
Yeah,
he's clearly losing his shit.
He talks about how things are groovy, and more like weird vernacular slipping in here. He mentions about how stuff is very cool.
Yeah,
these are all kinds of things that like they would never say in a Star Trek.
Well, it's also something that very clearly Stamens has never said either.
Yeah, it was all pretty strange to me.
It was strange because I think it was meant to be strange. Lorca mentions like he's a little bit it's like Stamens is appearing a little out of sorts. And as Stamens continues to say things like cool and groovy and like, yeah, this is great. Yeah. And you're like, this is not the Stamens that has been around for 5 episodes. Like he's very sour most of the time. And now all of a sudden he's like you said, he's high on mushrooms still.
Yeah. I literally wrote like, they turned the chief into a stoner.
Yeah, he's totally. And this is where Jason Isaacs for me really sells that he's a great actor, as he is just the background of this little exchange that is happening. You can see his face get continually more worried.
Yeah, and like even on Michael, you can see during the scene, Michael's like, "What the hell's going on?" Like she's like looking back and forth between him and Lorca, like, what?
Lorca's like, "I'm getting what I want, but something's wrong here" the whole time, and then comes up with one of the greatest lines in the show so far: "Rules are for admirals," which is great. Great,
okay, Lorca.
We get Burnham's mind meld machine.
Magic, more space magic. We need to enhance the space magic. Give her a better magic spellbook. Yeah, they stick her on a shuttle with Tyler, and Lorca says, "Bring them back," and then whispers, "When I say them, I mean Burnham. I don't give a rat about anybody else." And like he then says, "Or don't come back yourself." Yeah, and it's like, dang, dude. Something's up. Does he have like a crush on Michael or something? No, what's going on? There's something up with it. Like he's got a plan. Very clearly, he has a plan, right? Oh, I don't know that it's clear. Okay, when we get to the end of this, there's something up that he's doing, right? Yes. And it starts with Tyler. He's like making Tyler his right-hand guy after he rescues him from a ship, right? Tyler's indebted to him. He's loyal. Yeah, I was going to say, because Tyler is going to be indebted to him and loyal no matter what he does because he saved his life. He broke Burnham out of prison and gave her a job. She's now indebted and loyal. Saru, for some reason, despite kind of thinking like Lorca is a little bit off the end, is very loyal. You know, like something's up with the crew that he's building or something. But that's not to detract from the mind battle that we get with with Sarek and Burnham. I thought it was like I mentioned before that it was really interesting that this was more interesting than having a flashback, right? Because you see Michael talk about, his last thoughts are about how I failed him and I'm making him sad in his last moments here and all this stuff. Yeah. And, then as the space magic goes on, you kind of learn a little more about what's actually going on here. Yeah. Tyler mentions, hey, I've been near death, and near death, you don't think about
your people that failed you. You think about the people you let down.
Right. And so then it's like, then you see the whole scene about what had actually happened. The Vulcan science guy's like, actually, we're only going to let one of your two humanish type people in, her or Spock.
I thought that is an amazing twist in writing because of how bad and ashamed he must feel for having chosen Spock, and then for Spock, well,
then Spock to turn around and basically like stab his dad in the back unknowingly.
Here's the difference. I think there's a difference here in timelines because in 2009 Star Trek, Spock is denied entry to the Vulcan Science Academy. And I looked this up, and I think in the regular timeline, he goes through the Vulcan Science Academy, and when accepted to the Expeditionary Force, says, "Nah, I'm gonna go Star Trek with Starfleet."
I think that's what's going on here.
So I think
they talk about him going through the Science Academy, but then deny. The idea is that guy was the head of the Expeditionary Force, saying you can have either Michael or Spock.
Yeah, and then Spock says, "Hey, my sister went to Starfleet. I'm going to Starfleet."
Right, that's kind of how it goes. Or, well, we don't know why, but essentially, Spock then chooses Starfleet and crushes his dad's dreams.
Oh, man, he must feel so bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That they used his kids against him, he chose, and then,
and he even tells us, like, you're asking me to make an impossible choice, which is, a very human thing at this point, right? Vulcan's supposed to be all about logic or whatever. Yeah. And they're making him make the human choice to choose between your two children. It's just like, literally the impossible thing that no parent can ever do, right?
Yeah, it is interesting to see earlier Star Treks when they definitely tackle the like volcanism head on, and the cracks haven't shown up yet.
Yeah,
Vulcans and humans become an intertwined, almost symbiotic species when it comes to the later series. Because of their becoming, Sarek starts to understand what it really means to unlock Vulcan potential later on as in TNG and beyond. And it is dependent on humans, and it's cool to see it start here. And I wonder if they really do add to Spock's character quite a bit by having Burnham educate you on some of Spock's early decisions.
Yeah, I hope so. And we get a thing here where so Burnham has her revelation. She's able to wake, or Sarek allows her into his mind, I guess, and he's able to wake up and hit the button or whatever, and they save him. Yay. And so then she confronts him in the medical bay and is like, "Hey, Dad, you want to talk about what just happened, or do you want to be weird and distant and make it awkward?"
Yeah.
And Sarek, of course, chooses to make it awkward. And instead of pressing him, gives him a good, like, "Okay, fine, Dad, I'm going to leave. I know we're going to end up having this conversation later. And unlike you, I'm not going to be a dick about it and force me to have this conversation
I know,
now."
Right?
It was like later.
It's funny that she just flips the switch and she's like, "No, you know what? You raised me. I'm human. I'm not calling you Sarek anymore. Get over it."
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, that's a cool moment. We kind of glossed over, so maybe we should go back to Lorca and Admiral Cornwell have some time together on the ship while all that stuff is happening.
Yeah, so Lorca and Cornwell clearly have history together, and it becomes, she comes and sees him and is like, "Hey, again, what are you doing? You're launching this like rescue mission off into nowhere without approval. We told you not to be using the spore drive all over the place. What are you doing, man? Like, hey, I'm coming to you as a friend here. Let's bring it in." And then he's like, "Well, if we're friends, let's talk like friends. Here's whiskey."
And from whiskey, let's get in bed, apparently.
Yes. So, they made it seem like maybe that wasn't the first time they had done that either.
Clearly.
So, they're very clearly either ex-lovers or something here. And
there's a little unceremonious end to their time together as they are.
I think it's interesting to bring up the part, before even that, where is Lorca, when you see the end resolution of this scene, right? And you go back and look at the earlier part, was Lorca doing all of this to kind of just like allay her fears?
Yeah, I think definitely he's just trying to get her off his ship.
That makes Lorca like really cold-blooded and like kind of evil. He's acting in some really like manipulative and really just not good ways here.
So he's definitely, she calls him out, and so this is where we don't have backstory, and it's starting to show that maybe we don't know or see everything, because maybe she knew him differently than we have ever gotten to see him, and to her, he's acting new or different. And so to us, it's kind of like, well, he doesn't seem like he's changed since the show started, so I don't know what she's all concerned about. But since they have this connection, obviously she sees that he, like she says, you've lied on all your evaluations. You found a way to trick them into what they want to hear. You're not all right, and I'm going to pull your ship.
Yeah. The part I had here was like, what? Do Starfleet's doctors all just like really suck? Like, are there psyche valves in the future just as bad as the ones we have currently, where they haven't like improved the science of telling when people are very obviously lying to you?
I don't know, but
I just feel like Lorca, his whole character thus far, he hasn't been hiding that he's been crazy, and not even crazy. That's
crazy.
That's an unfair way to say it, but like, he's not like he's hiding what his intentions are a lot of the time. I feel like it's pretty obvious. How has no one in Starfleet seen him do this stuff and be like, maybe he isn't up on the level here?
But see, I don't get that. I don't get that he's not on the level as much. Maybe he isn't. Maybe you're right, and you're seeing something deeper into his character.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
But it definitely seems like she says, basically, I've got a better beat on you than anybody else, right? Like,
right.
Like, they're creating tension
I
with
totally
her specifically.
I totally believe that she sees that he's lying. That part I totally believe. It's just I don't see how everyone else doesn't see it.
But
with the way he's been acting, like I feel like people got court-martialed for less.
I wonder if she's seeing something beyond what we are able to, or it just reads badly in terms of like, she's the only one that is upset. And if that's true, then maybe it's a little out of line or personal or something, right? Because she leaves the room and he says, don't take my ship from me, it's all I have.
Right.
It seems more personal than, because we don't have the story or the previous character to rely on to say, oh yeah, he has changed, she's right. We're left a little bit in the wind. I'm left a little bit in the wind when I watch it, thinking like she could be right. Maybe she's the reliable narrator, but also, this show has now said, we're not going to tell you all the backstory all the time. So there's unreliability in our characters, and that's cool, but it leaves you kind of twisting in the wind on making decisions on who you believe.
Yeah. One thing I wrote is that like the thing that happens here that I kind of is sort of seems to be present in the show as a whole is that there's no one who is really just good, right? Sure. And that's okay. All people in real life are all sorts of shades of gray and white and black and every other thing, morally and in actual colors. And that's fine. But Star Trek in the past has always sort of had here is the line, or, if we're bringing up a thing that is ethically or morally confusing, because we know where the line is, we're going to show this thing as a shade of gray because the line is so obvious. In this show, I feel like I don't know where the line is. What is Lorca not going to do? I feel like he would do anything. Mm-hmm. And so then I don't know that I believe when, because Lorca is so unclear to me. I don't have the leader in charge. At least I think the admiral is probably thing.
I think you're a little you're a little bit hitting the nail on the head here, right? We got Jonathan Archer in 2151 to say, these are the things I think we should do, and the Prime Directive becomes a thing. And for the most part, the Enterprise launches 100 years later, and the tenets laid down in the early years of space travel are starting to become a thing. People are understanding, like, we have certain realities in space we have to watch out for. But like Lorca says, or like Harry Mudd says last episode to Lorca, this is the first time that really the Federation has run into a species that says, hey, knock it off. You are expanding into our space, or it seems like Mudd implies you've had 100 years here where no one's really said boo about you guys running around, and now it's time to stop.
And you poked your nose somewhere where it wasn't wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just think it's so confusing to just like to understand the characters when the ideal that I know that Starfleet tries to live up to, this paragon of virtue and right, doing right by other species as well as ourselves and all this stuff. And then, this show isn't about that.
At least not yet.
Yeah, and maybe it becomes about that. I don't know. But so far, what I've gotten from like the majority of the characters has been that, like, yeah, we all signed on for this, but in reality, everything is a little darker than this nice, shining light over here.
I think you definitely have the problem of they built a warship, kind of, right? It was a test bed for a thing that Lorca
Starfleet doesn't build warships,
right,
Andrew.
Right, I know. It's a science vessel. Everyone's on science, right? But Lorca's turning it into a warship, and they don't have warships. And I think that this is the first time in Starfleet history. It's not the first time in a show that people have struggled with saying what's the line, like you said, but it's definitely the first time maybe in Starfleet that they're showing us someone went beyond the line, and now we know why we have a line.
Yeah. I am very curious to where they're going to keep going, because I know that this show, at the times that it was being aired first, I think a lot of people didn't like this too much.
Really?
The first season, I guess, was pretty unliked by a lot of, diehard Star Trek fans.
Oh, okay. Well, I have some complaints.
Thus far, I
don't have a lot of hate for it.
I definitely don't have hate for it. I think this has been really fun to watch so far. The episodes have been engaging.
Yeah.
I don't know that I like the characters or some of the characters, but I don't think you're supposed to. Though in that case, then I think they're doing their job.
Yeah.
I do think we were talking about what's his name? Isaacs.
Oh, Jason Isaacs, Lorca.
Jason Isaacs, Lorca.
Jason Isaacs. Uh-huh.
And he's doing a really fantastic job.
He is, and that's with the end of this episode ends with Cornwell going to the meeting, and it's a trap laid by General Cole, the only smart Klingon.
Right, again. Hey, here's the guy. Maybe we should all follow.
Yeah. Isaacs is doing a great job, as I think, because I sat there and thought, he made a comment that implies that he knew Cornwall was going instead of Sarek because Sarek couldn't go. And he seemed very, very, very reserved, but that tiny little Jason Isaacs acting moment where he seems happy because he either suspects...
He got her.
He suspects that this is a trap.
Yeah.
And that he's not going to lose his ship. He very clearly does not engage with Saru or anyone else on the fact that the Admiral said he's going to lose his ship. He assumes that, she said, well, when we get back, we'll talk about how you step down. Well, good. And I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm stepping down because, frankly, I think you're going to go to this meeting. You're not going to come back.
Oops, it looks like she never came back. I saw this as like a really, really cold-blooded move on his part to essentially send her to die, it feels like.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that she does die, right? They don't make that clear.
Oh, very clearly she's going to be used as bait because they say at the end of the episode, she got captured. And then Saru's like, we should go get her. And he says, well, let's wait for orders.
Regulations. And like, I just don't know how Saru doesn't just immediately go, you're lying? This is the first time you've ever said anything about regulations.
Oh, he does. He totally does. He says, sir, we normally just do this and ask for forgiveness later. He's like, yeah, but like, she's too important. We don't want to like set off a problem here. So there's definitely like that is cold-blooded, right? Yeah, that moment right there
this moment at the end kind of turned me on. I was starting to believe Lorca's like trying to do good, in the way the makeup for the things that he did bad on his other ship. Nope. Now I feel like he's probably real evil or something. Like at the end of this, it's like, dude, he literally just sent that admiral to what he thought would be her death.
I definitely see what you're saying. And it makes me wonder about like why he's building the crew the way he's building the crew. Like he commissions Burnham to the bridge at the end of this. He's got Tyler. He's built the crew, and Stamens is kind of on board with him now because he's all high on mushrooms. There's a thing he's doing here. The Captain Lorca is doing here behind the scenes that until that moment at the end where maybe you start to see like, that's ugly. That's an ugly choice. That I don't know why you made that. Up to that moment, I was thinking Jason Isaacs is doing a great job making me think like, I think this guy is way beyond, but I can't help but like him. Yeah. Yeah. I still almost kind of like him.
No.
Almost.
I think I agree with you up to the point where like he clearly then seduces the Admiral and sends her to her death. Like,
yeah, that definitely
in a very
beyond the pale. I don't know how
in a very like self-serving way where he's like, oh, she's causing problems for me. Guess I have to kill her. Oh, she chose to kill herself. Haha. Like, I didn't encourage this.
I absolutely do not think he would have like killed her or anything. I just think
I don't know, dude. So you see that he's carrying the phaser around all the time, and they kind of. I feel like they're trying to portray this as like he has like PTSD or something from his time on that ship or something. And okay, but it leaves me the thought of like, if Saru came and said to him, "Hey, the Admiral told me you were going to step down," would he have shot him?
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt it.
I think he would have. I don't know. At this point now, I just don't know what to believe about it. So I'll be interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm still digging it. Like I said, I really am enjoying Jason Isaacs' acting.
Yeah, and Michael Burnham is really good. I actually wrote at the end, so Michael Burnham now is free to have emotions.
Dude, she just unloads on Tyler.
And then I was like, she's like Data who just put the emotion chip in.
Oh my god, right? At the end,
it's like, this is like a bad Data.
She sits down in the cafeteria for a guy she spent 30-40 minutes on a shuttle with one time, and it's just like, hi, these are all the problems I've ever had in my life.
My dad hates me and I have all these issues in my life, and I love you, baby. I don't know, I'm hungry, so I'm tired. What's going on?
I'm gonna have this green tea now. Hi, how are you? Let me shake your hand. He's like, I
don't know how to talk to you now.
No, it's cool. It's cool that she seems to have like gotten a hall pass from this thing that was holding her back. Amanda had told her mother had told her, don't forget that you're a human being, because otherwise you won't grow.
Yeah. So I hope we get more of her character now that she's sort of been freed from this.
Well, she's going to be on the bridge, so I'll know at least 2 people's name on the bridge now.
Yay!
We got a couple names.
3 if Lorca's there.
When Saru was in charge, he said a couple of people's names so fast.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not characters outside the bridge, so I have no idea who they are.
I remember that. It's the girl with the thing on her face, and then the girl at the helm.
Yeah.
And the robot. You said the name of all 3 of those people.
But they're not characters outside the bridge, so...
And never know who they are.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just want to wrap up talking about uniforms, and then if you have any other comments.
I think we've hit all my comments, so uniforms, let's go.
Those collars are dumb.
wow, they're dumb.
I look from afar, for some reason earlier in this show, I feel like we got the uniform shots mostly from afar. And I was like, these look all right. That was my takeaway a couple episodes ago. Like, these look all right.
I feel like when you first get the shots, like they're backed out enough that you don't notice the little flappy thing.
Yeah.
And the zipper being off center.
Yeah. Why is the zipper off center? Because they have the little flappy thing. The flap makes no sense. You're in space.
Even I could live with the off-center zipper because it's the future.
Yeah, sure.
And like future clothes have to look cool and off-center zippers are cool.
And those red uniforms you like are off-center.
Yeah, the original series Star Trek ones have the off-center thing so that they can like flap it over to make a I don't know what. But so I could have lived with that.
Uh-huh.
What is this little flappy neck collar partial thing? What is this?
It's terrible. It's really bad.
And then underneath it, there's like a fold that like folds in under it that covers the top of the zipper or something.
Yep. It would take forever to get into that in the morning.
Even if you figured out a way to get into it quickly, you would never be able to take it off without someone helping you.
It's terrible.
It's like trying to tie a tie while you're looking down at it. This is a very like male-centric problem, I guess. But like if you've ever tried to tie a tie without looking in the mirror, it's very hard. I think it is. And I feel like you're going to be doing this every day, except that you can't see the collar and the flappy thing and wherever it connects under there.
Right.
And the zipper. Oh, my God.
Let's talk about shoulders.
Okay.
So it appears that they have blue as the main uniform thing, silver if you're science or not on the bridge, and then gold for everyone else, which is already a problem. We've talked about that before.
How does anyone know who a captain is?
What do you do? Like, what? I don't know that you're an engineer by looking at you, right? Like, that's a problem, which is...
Very helpfully, the doctor wears white, so you know who he is.
The doctor wears white. Okay. Hooray.
You know one person.
And then we get that meeting with the admirals, and you start to notice the tiny differences in uniforms. Like Tilly, the cadet, has 3 stripes, but everyone else has 4 stripes. And the shoulder pads for people that are not the captain, they don't have any leafing. From the tips of his shoulders to his neck on Lorca has a little bit of striping. And then if you're an admiral, you just have shoulders that are gold from your neck all the way down your forearm. Who can read that?
Clearly, they have a lot of time in Starfleet Academy to teach them all these subtle cues so that when they're on a battlefield or out exploring space, they could very quickly identify who is what by zooming into their shoulders and reading the complex series of signs that happen to be there that indicate that they're a 1-star versus a 3-star admiral.
Those shoulders on the admiral look so dumb.
The shoulders on every person, I think, look dumb. The silver ones and the gold ones?
I think the uniforms look okay if they're plain, as long as they would have had some sort of thing to show rank separately.
You know, like dots. Like they used to have and worked just fine.
Yep.
Or if you think it's too early in the timeline to have those dots.
No, because they had pips on Captain Archer.
Okay. Or if you wanted to do like what the original series does and put people in different colored shirts, that worked real good.
Sure did.
There were no pips on those, but you just knew because he was wearing the one color at that thing. That makes it easy.
Yep. I really wish.
Huh?
Yeah,
we're doing this complicated stuff today.
The Enterprise has the other uniforms. Why didn't they just go with them?
I understand they don't want it to look like a 70s show, so they have to do some kind of update to the way those uniforms look. But you could have still kept the colors.
Yeah.
What if the shoulder pads were different colors? Bam, done.
Something was.
You have a light
here.
Blue, you have a red, you have a gold. Now you know who's who. Done.
Yeah.
I'm a genius, Andrew.
You are a costume designer.
God. Yeah. I agree with you that as these episodes went on, I got more by the way the uniforms are indistinct, and I was unable to tell who had what position.
Yeah, it really started to wear on me, like episode 5 in the Admiral's meeting, and then episode 6, I was just like, these don't look that great.
Yeah, like if you showed me Saru, like the only reason I knew Saru was the first officer is because someone told me.
Yeah, I can't tell what Saru would be.
Yeah.
I know he's got gold on, which means he's probably an officer of some kind.
Yes.
But it's everybody
like,
that's wearing gold.
What if is he higher ranked than Lorca? I don't know. If you just showed me their 2 pictures, I wouldn't know.
Right. I think, yeah. I don't know, man. All right. Well,
I don't know, man.
I think we kind of covered like the mental shifts that we've taken in the show. I think that we've covered 3 episodes is pretty good.
Yeah.
We motored through it pretty quick. There wasn't the Sarek episode was pretty light, so it was like really easy to cover.
It definitely, there's a lot of stuff happening, in between the flashbacks and whatever. There was like, a few big scenes with Lorca doing the stuff with the Admiral, and then Michael having her mind magic with Sarek.
Yeah.
The episode wasn't bad. It was just like light. Yeah, light. Light's the right way to describe it.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was Subspace 10. Hey, we rounded it out. We're in 2 digits now.
Woo!
And you can email us why you think these uniforms are good, and we'll argue with you if you'd like. At, what is that? Podcast at wewergamers.com.
Yeah, podcast at wewergamers.com.
Or you can find us on YouTube, where we have game footage and Star Trek pods and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, subscribe to that YouTube, man. Get notified by when we post new stuff. There's a little bell you can click. It's good.
Talk about Star Trek on Twitter sometimes. You can follow us there. And we'll be back next episode with 3 more, I think, at least.
Yeah. Let us know how you feel about these the pace here. I feel like this pace is pretty good.
I liked it. All right, man. Well, back into the Trekverse.
Yeah. Oh, man. Now I want to watch Spider-Man again.
I just got it. It's on Blu-ray on my counter.